Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Through the Looking Glass with Martha on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. I love this network. I love my audience. Tonight, I am so very excited and honored. I have a really special guest for you guys tonight. My dear, dear friend, Jen DuBois, is here tonight to share with us some really cool stuff. I've known Jen for a couple of years now. She is so amazing. So I'm so excited to welcome her to the show. And she's going to talk to us about the secrets of decluttering your mind. And I cannot wait to declutter my mind tonight. Jen, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much, Martha, for inviting me on tonight. I'm so excited to share. And yes, what better time to declutter your mind than this time of year?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Totally.
So yeah, as Martha said, I will be sharing my 7 favorite secrets for decluttering your mind and reclaiming your joy. Who doesn't want to reclaim some joy?
It's the season of joy, Jen.
It's the season of joy.
Let's reclaim our joy.
Let's do it. So I recently posted this quote on Facebook and it got some traction. See if you can relate. Your brain at 3 a.m. I can see you're trying to sleep, so I would like to offer you a selection of every unresolved issue, memory, or things you should have said or done today, as well as in the last 30 years. I know, I love it. I posted that and everybody was like, oh my gosh, like, and then, yeah, stories.
Totally true.
Yeah.
Totally true. Do you know that my husband has actually gotten up exactly at 3 a.m. the last 2 nights for exactly that reason?
Well, it's like, I don't know what they call that hour, and it doesn't even matter if it's 3 a.m. Like for other people, it could be midnight. It could be the middle of the day, right? But it's just whenever you get that mental jolt that's just like pulls you out of your skin and makes you think that, oh my God, the world is falling.
The sky's falling. I got to get up right now and handle everything. Yeah, totally.
Well, and that happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I woke up and it was like I was in a state of panic and I was physically and emotionally just like ramped up. My mind was spinning. I was physically sweating and it was over, wait for it, organizing my paperwork. Yep, that is what woke me up in the middle of the night. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm pretty organized. So for that to wake me up and that to be something that was urgent was pretty crazy. And it
not only are you pretty organized, Jen, but
you know me.
Jen and I went through Fearless Living together. There were 8 of us in a cohort and we became really, really close. And Jen was the one that we always knew would know right where some piece of information was. So she was our go-to in the class to go, hey, Jen, where's this again? Or what is it? Or can you send me your notes or whatever? Because we knew she had everything at the tip of her fingertips. So I can't believe that's what you woke up on.
I know. So I'm like, oh my gosh, all the organization that I thought, was just, anyway, it's just like the brain does crazy tricks. Because Martha, it didn't stop there. It then went on to, my son lives a couple hours away from here and the winter is coming and there's windy roads and he works on the road. And so then mom panic mode goes into alert. So then I'm worried about him. Then it goes into a conversation I had with a friend. And did I say something to offend her? No, I did not say anything to offend her, but it's because your mind's replaying all the things, right? Mm-hmm. So you think that you could have said or done something. And so your mind's just like twirling. And then it goes into the Rolodex of my closet because, oh my God, I've got an event coming up and what in the heck am I going to wear? Like, it just is craziness. It's chaos.
Yes.
Yeah. So reining in that chaos and finding some calm. So that's what I'm going to share with you today, because some of those secrets I tapped into and I was able to pull myself out of the whatever that was, the constant swirling and back down to into normal town.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to find out.
So a little bit about my backstory that I like to share with people, because truly I've been there. I am there. This is all a practice. It's just a matter of putting some of these little secrets into play, but you never arrive. It's just about continuously practicing those. So I've lived most of my life with an overwhelmed, cluttered mind. And I would even consider myself a mental hoarder. And I use that term with the utmost respect because I really feel like that's what I was doing. I was so afraid of losing those special, the things that I deemed most important. I was so afraid that I was going to forget them or misplace them, that it was like they were all starting to just gather in my prime mental real estate. So what I consider my prime mental real estate is that valuable spot in your brain where that's where you want all those golden nuggets. You want to be able to access those golden nuggets, right? And you can't do that if everything falls there. And that's what was happening to me. I started to feel overwhelmed. I started feeling frustrated. And it's because my brain didn't know the difference of what was urgent and what was not. And so it was all landing in this spot and I couldn't find my golden nuggets.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because I've got this great slide when I do this live and in person. I have a PowerPoint that goes with this, but this one slide speaks to me. And it's this woman and she's sitting at a desk and she's got like this hoard of paperwork, like squishing her. Like you could just feel it. And I mean, when I saw that picture, Martha, I was like, oh my God, be still my heart. Because I'm like, that's how I felt.
Oh.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm sure that there's been times where people just feel like, whether it's paper, whether it's whatever, but for me, it was just like a nightmare of paper stuff. It was just, and it wasn't paper necessarily, but it was the thoughts and the ideas and all the things that were so important to me were just getting squashed. So using some of these secrets, I was able to kind of rein myself in, check in with myself. And it's been a game changer because again, it's a process, right? Once you find your way, yeah, then it's just a process. You kind of have things that you can tap into and utilize when those moments arise because they will. This is just how it happens.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So
yeah.
Tell me what we do. What do we do? We can't wait to hear.
What do we do? So our minds are the gatekeeper of our thoughts, our actions, and our behaviors. So we have to take care of our mind. So the very first secret I'm going to share is brain dump and journal. And it's kind of a two-parter. The brain dumping, I think, is the most important because once you get it out of your brain, out of your mind, and onto paper, at least it's got a spot where it's all coming to. So when I say brain dump, I mean, whatever's going on in your mind goes on paper. And some people say, but Jen, I don't like to write. I don't like to write. Well, that's okay. Do a OneNote. Do whatever serves you. The point is get it all in one place. Get it out of your head and into that one place. And then the journaling component can come on the front or the back side. Some people can't even imagine tapping into being able to brain dump. They're like, I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff up there. How do I figure out like what's going on? So I tell people, and I have some clients that struggle with this. And I say, okay, so then you sit down and you process journal. What does that mean? You're asking yourself questions. And you're saying, so what is going on with me? Why can't I access and unlock these things that are going on inside my mind? And the more questions you're asking yourself, the more you're getting answers. It's slowly unlocking that closed door.
I love that. I have never journaled asking myself questions, believe it or not. I have always done, no, I have never done that. That is a fabulous idea. I'm going to do that. I love that.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, Martha, that just gets the ball rolling, right? Because it's like once you're asking yourself questions and you can unlock the floodgates, then you're going to have no problem brain dumping because it's all going to come out. And then once you can do that, then it's like you have a starting place. Now, some people have no problem, like me, brain dumping all the things and then being like, oh my gosh, now what do I do with all the things? So now maybe that's when you go back and kind of journal about it. What's coming up for me? What is it I'm trying to chase? What is it? What's the target I'm trying to reach? What's the goal that I'm trying to accomplish? And so really being able to kind of hone in on that. So that's the first step. So the second secret is once you've brain dumped everything and you've kind of journaled about it, now you're going to prioritize. Yes,
prioritize. Love prioritizing.
Well, and if you're like me at some point in your life, it's like everything seemed to be a priority. And so it got very murky because it was like you couldn't identify what was priority and what was just a to-do. So I tell people, I said, go back through your brain dump list and decide where it is you're going. Then you pick 3 things, only 3.
3.
3. 3 is a magic number for your brain. So if you're picking those 3 things that you deem a priority, and those are the things that are going to kind of move the needle and start getting you somewhere, those are your 3 things. So I like to use an example. I help women that are stuck and struggling and overwhelmed and in a transition in their life get to where they want to go. So this is a relatable example for my clients is, let's say they're an empty nester and their kids have moved out. They've identified with being a mom forever. And it's like, who am I now? What am I supposed to be doing? What should I do? And so maybe their brain dump looks like a bunch of different things and they're all random and they're not sure what to do. And maybe she comes up with, let's call her Sally. And maybe Sally comes out of her brain dump and she's like, okay, the 3 things I really want to work on are, maybe she wants to take a class on an old hobby. Let's say painting. So she's like, okay, so maybe that's one of her priorities. She's seeking out a hobby. Maybe another priority for her is looking into getting a part-time job. Right? And then maybe a third one could be something like starting a book club with friends. So maybe those are just the 3 things that are going to kind of move her out of this empty nesting, I don't know what to do with myself, into something for herself. So we're playing with that example along the way. Because the third step is to decide. So here we are, we've brain dumped, she's figured out 3 priorities that she's moving forward on this goal of finding herself. Now the decision part, this is where the action comes in.
Love moving them to action.
Yes.
Tell me.
Action. Well, and action's where the magic happens, right? Because without action, it's just knowledge. It's just, oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, it's just a list.
It's just a list. So now it's about taking those action steps. So at this point, now maybe she decides, so that first thing she wanted to do was taking that painting class. So maybe the very first action step is Googling where she can take a painting class.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's just a baby step. We're just baby stepping. And maybe for that second priority of finding a part-time job, maybe she sits down and kind of journals about why she even wants a job. Does she want a job to earn money? Does she want a job just to get out of the house and to have some purpose and to be around people? And where does she want to work? So maybe it's just really thinking about those things and doing a little research. And then what was the third one? The third one was starting a book group.
Book group.
Yes. So maybe her first step is, what book do you want to read? What book do you want to share with your friends? And then maybe a list of the friends that want to join you. So as you can see, like that process working through for somebody like Sally is very simple. It's brain dumping everything. She's made her priorities, her 3 priorities. Now she's decided to take action on those priorities. And we just did just one little snippet action step for each one.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's not overwhelming at all. None of those are overwhelming, right? And it's not even as though she's committed to doing those things. She's just what if I did, right? What if I did? Which is
that because you're speaking to possibilities, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like what could be possible for me as an empty nester if I did A, B, and C? And again, that's why you only pick 3, because the list of 3 pages is a little daunting.
Yeah. And she's not even, I mean, she can change those at any time, right?
Right. Yes. Everything is fluid. That's what I like to say. Like this is all fluid movement because you have to start somewhere.
And yet it gives her mind somewhere to go. It gives her mind someplace to rest, which is awesome.
Yeah. So going back to the prime mental real estate that I refer to, again, like this is kind of clearing that out. And it's like, okay, now I've kind of cleared that out. Now I see what my priorities are so I can follow through with those things. This is doable. I can do this. So you're really breaking it down into pieces that your brain can actually grab a hold of and take root and go.
That's amazing. Amazing.
Yeah. So the 4th secret isn't necessarily a step. I like to bring this in as number 4 for a reason. So it's mental self-care. Mental self-care is essential. Now, some people may say, like, how is that a step to decluttering your mind? Everything starts with your mind. So if your mind is in a chaotic state, you can't focus. You can't do those priorities. You can't take the action steps because your mind's doing this.
Yeah.
Right.
So my mental healthcare at one point was a glass of wine or two,
Mm.
right? That was my
Yep.
mental, right? That was my go-to for how I brought it down. And I know that's not what you're going to say, even though you and I have been drinking buddies on occasion, just on occasion. So,
But you're right. Some people do use that as a vice.
Right. So what is it that you use for that mental health care and to calm down your brain? I can't wait to hear.
Well, and I'm glad you said that too, because I think two things on that. Like, of course, wine. Everybody likes to enjoy, not everybody, but a lot of people like to enjoy a glass of wine here and there, and that's fine. Now, if you're using it to bring yourself down and be like, that's my calming thing, that's not necessarily the most healthy version of mental health care, right? Self-care. So what I suggest, everybody talks about self-care. We know we need to eat right. We know we need to sleep. We know we need to do exercise. We have all the things, right?
Yep.
And all of those are fantastic and everyone should do those things. But if you could do all those things, if you're not taking care of your mindset first, all these other things are just things you're doing. You have to check in with yourself first. So I tell people, like, you don't have to be all woo-woo and be a professional yogi. You don't have to be a professional meditator, even though I believe in both of those things. And I think they're awesome.
Me too.
Yes. But if you're not there yet, or if that's not an interest to you, I really challenge people to just take 2 minutes, to take 2 minutes in between their tasks, from task to task, check in with themselves, take a few deep breaths. You know, Martha, you and I work from home. So it's a matter of getting out of this chair and maybe just going outside or getting a glass of water and just enjoying being outside for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Everybody has time for that. We don't make time.
What do you think about it? Is it the same to like put on your favorite music and give yourself that mental break and dance or sing?
I love that. Get up and dance. Move your body. Well, and really, that is so good for your mind to get your body in physical movement. But you're doing it intentionally and you're doing it between things that normally keep you so busy and so like in this rat race. When you stop and you take a minute and you're like, okay, I'm just going to check in with myself. I'm going to take 2 minutes before I switch tasks, before I get on that next Zoom meeting.
Yeah, I'm going to get up and I dance right before this show.
I love that.
I danced during the commercial break too, which is coming up in about another minute or so. So
awesome.
I love to do that. It ups my energy. It makes my brain tingly, happy, right? I love
that. I love that. And really just giving yourself that permission to pause. And that's what you're doing. You're pausing and you're getting up and dancing. I think that's outstanding. And I think whatever it is for you, that's what is best to do. But if it's just a matter of just taking a few deep breaths and that's where you need to start there.
Take permission to pause.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself permission to pause. That is so powerful, that permission to pause.
Yeah.
Don't jump
to be
one
possible
tree to another.
Right.
Take a minute and a permission to pause.
Yes.
How powerful is that throughout your day? What is possible when you give yourself permission to pause? How can your brain have that moment and how much more could you get done? That is phenomenal. I love permission to pause, Jen. Brilliant.
Thank you. Yes. And so did you want me to go on or are we taking a commercial break?
Let's take our This would be a
good time to take that breathing moment.
Take a pause. This is the perfect time to take that pause. So we are talking to Jen DuBois, and we are talking about decluttering our mind. This is Through the Looking Glass with Martha. I am at marthadalexander@gmail.com, Through the Looking Glass with Martha.com, and Jen is at fearlesscoachjen@gmail.com, www.jendubois.com. We will be right back after these messages. Stick with us and dance. Take a pause, baby. Take a pause.
I love that.
add some good lactose. Oh my gosh, guys, we are back. This is Martha Davis Alexander, and this is Through the Looking Glass with Martha. And we are so excited tonight to have a certified fearless living coach with me, Jen DuBois. She is an empowerment coach, and she is amazing. And she is talking tonight on how to declutter your mind. Jen, welcome back. We were just taking a pause, and then we took a pause. That was your fourth, right? That was your fourth thing, was take a pause, and we took a pause.
But I love that timed out just perfectly. How great was that? That was totally by chance. That was totally by chance.
And it was a perfect timing for you to say, so let's just take a pause. I love that.
Yeah. So just to retouch on that, it's so important to take the 2 minutes. Between tasks, take the 2 minutes to check in with yourself. Dance it out like Martha. Take a few deep breaths. Do whatever suits you, but just have that transition time. It sets your next thing up for success, 1000%. Okay, so moving on. Number 5. So this is a very big step. This is letting it go. I would love to sing to you, but I'm not going to. But you got to let it go.
Let it go.
Right? All the coulda, woulda, shoulda, didn'ts. Do you ever live in the Wayback Machine, Martha?
I have lived in the Wayback Machine, Jen. Used to be every night. I lived in the Wayback Machine. Anytime I was out in public or met somebody, I was in the Wayback Machine every single night.
Yep. And does that serve you?
No.
How did that serve you?
Exhausting place to be. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Exhausting.
Yeah, guys.
And totally sucked all that joy, right? All the joy of being with people totally sucked dry.
Yes. So letting it go, whether that's like what you were saying, like toxic people, toxic situations, things that no longer serve you, cut it loose. You have to make that intentional choice to be able to, first of all, to identify them, identify what's taking up space in your prime mental real estate that no longer needs to be there. And then you can intentionally cut the cord and let it go. And sometimes that's a lot harder than it sounds. Mm-hmm. But really cutting those things loose is going to free your mind. It's going to free you up for so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, letting it go. Again, I talk a lot about journaling, but there are people that don't like to journal. And I have another client that actually, so she doesn't like to journal, but she will talk in like a app, like Otter, and she will talk it out. So it's almost like talking to yourself, but you're talking all the thoughts out. So if you think about it as just an audible journal, you know, sometimes that's all it takes is just being able to process those things in an audible form. If you're not a writer, then that's an option too. You know,
sometimes I call someone and I vent.
Yes.
Like one of my brothers really annoyed me this week, and I had to call my best friend and like kind of share my frustration.
Yeah. And that's a great point. Venting is a great tool to be able to do that. Because again, and like we know in Fearless Living from doing that, like venting is really just, you know, having that person there that's just listening to you. You're not looking for advice. You're not looking for them to save the day. You're really just needing to be heard.
Yes, absolutely.
And just to be heard is pretty huge.
And for me today, I really wanted her to say, "Oh my gosh, Martha, like, I can't believe that." Like, of course you can, but it's moving the energy out, right? It's moving it out. You can let it go. Obviously, I've done such a great job of doing that.
Really, like, I mean, to your point, you have to acknowledge it in order to release it. So if you were having the problem with your brother, it's like, it's not just going to go away. You have to kind of work through it.
Yeah.
To get on the other side of it, to know what it is you're even releasing. So like we say, like feel the feels.
Feel
right?
all the feels.
Feel all the feels so that then you can release it.
You know, that was really hard for me, Jen. You know me, I'm not a feel girl. That was when I got into fearless living and they were like, what are you feeling? I'm like, what are you talking about? What does that even mean? Right? It took me a long time to be able to feel the feels.
And now that you can feel the feels, now what comes up for you?
I feel the feels and I'm like, wow, that's interesting. How do I want to, what do I want to do with this feeling?
Yeah.
I believe, and you and I have talked about it, feelings aren't good or bad. They're just feelings, right?
They're just feelings.
When you acknowledge them and feel it, and then say, how do I want to show up? What do I want to be in this situation?
Yeah.
How do I want to be? And then take actions to give yourself some action steps and move past it.
Right. It's when we attach those stories to those feelings that we get so wrapped up in that mess. And then it becomes a lot more than it was supposed to be.
Totally becomes way more than it was supposed to be.
It's the mountain. It's the mountain. It's no longer the molehill.
Yeah. Becomes that mountain. So this step 5 is letting it go.
Is letting it go. Yes. So I think everybody kind of gets the gist of that step because it sounds quite simple, but again, it's not always simple.
Time. And sometimes I just had a client like this week who had a bad breakup, and it took some time, right? We did some forgiveness, and a lot of stuff goes into sometimes letting go. Yeah. So don't feel bad for those of you at home who are like, just let it go.
Right. It's not just words.
There's a process to it.
Yes.
And if you need help, either Jen or I, we're here for you, right? We're here for you to help you with that step.
Well, and I think that's really important that you just acknowledge that, Martha, that it's not always easy and that it is a process. And it's very easy for me to say, oh, let it go. Well, yeah, that's easy to say, but it's much harder to do. But the point is you just have to be able to work through it. You've got to be able to say, this is how I'm feeling. And this is how I want to feel. This is what I want to release so I can get on the other side.
Right. And what do I have to do to get there? Is there forgiveness? Is there acceptance? What is there in there that I have to do? Right. What are those steps that will help me do that?
Right. It'd be great if we could just squash it down and hope it goes away. But that is absolutely, as we know, does not work.
Yeah, I've tried that. It comes back and bites you.
Yeah, it comes back with a vengeance.
It does.
Yeah. It does. Okay, so number 6, limit your media intake. Okay, guys, 24/7 we get fed on a constant, right?
Yeah, not podcasts. You don't have to limit.
That's right. Right. But very true. Very true. But like you can easily get sucked into the negative abyss, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Man, TikTok, Clubhouse, I can get sucked into it for days.
Yes.
Well, hi. Well,
from Hawaii. Yes.
Hello. Thank you for joining us from Hawaii.
That's exciting.
That is exciting. Hi, Linda.
Hello, Linda. Yes, but so I really suggest create some boundaries around whether it's the social media, whether it's the news, but having those boundaries built around that. So a couple of just little tips. Mm-hmm. So say, for instance, you're just wanting to check out and you've had enough of your day and you're just like, I just want to do something mindless. Give yourself 15 minutes to scroll through Facebook with the intention of only being, I'm going to be on here for 15 minutes for the purpose of scrolling and seeing what my friends are up to. But give yourself a time limit. Otherwise, I don't know about you, Martha, but you could spend a lot more than 15 minutes on there and you don't even know the time is gone.
It can suck your time completely. Yeah, absolutely.
Ask yourself if what you're watching is supporting you or if it's just creating more negative clutter that you're adding to your mind.
It's a great question.
Mm-hmm. And, even watching.
Say the question again.
Say the question again?
Yeah.
Oh, when you're watching the news, when you're watching something on Facebook, and you're tuning into something, ask yourself, is this supporting my authentic true self? Or is it really, is it feeding me negative energy that's just putting more clutter?
So is it sucking my joy?
Yeah. Is it sucking your joy? Because if
Wow.
it is, rethink it.
Yeah. If it is, cut it off, baby.
Yeah. Or if you watch the news, like morning, noon, and night, maybe you back it down to, I'm only going to watch it in the morning. Because guess what? You're going to be notified throughout the day one way or another, even if you don't tune in.
Don't worry about it.
Find out.
Find out.
Yeah. I mean, I say be informed yet mindful, right? I'm not telling you not to watch the news. I'm not telling you to give up social media.
Right.
But just have some clear boundaries for yourself in how much you're giving to media.
I love that, Jen. So how do you set a boundary? How would you, what does that look like? What would a boundary in that way look like?
Okay, so a boundary would look like, well, for instance, like I said, setting a timer. So if it's going to be like just scrolling through TikTok, like I have another client
Oh
that
my
scrolls
goodness.
TikTok, right? So it could be getting sucked in because it's fun, right? And you're looking up all kinds of things or watching YouTube videos on how to do this or how to do that. Yeah. All of it's great. But when you start watching things that are negative and that are really like pulling you into this space that doesn't feel good and it doesn't feel supportive and empowering, those are the things you want to check in with yourself and really try to set more boundaries. And maybe even taking some time to disconnect.
Hi, Miriam. I'm looking forward to meeting you. So, Jen, it's interesting because I think about that and TikTok really does suck me. I mean, I've lost, before I set boundaries, I lost days to TikTok because I found it so like, oh my gosh.
It's a rabbit hole.
It is a rabbit hole. Where was I going with this? Brain dump. Brain dump.
Well, I think it was really about, you were saying boundaries. And I think boundaries are super important. So whatever boundaries those are that you set for yourself, but set an intention. What is my intention for, getting on Facebook?
So what if, how do I know how do I become aware when it's negative for me? How do I,
that's a great question.
That awareness?
It's a great question. So a lot of times you'll feel it in your body. Like, do you ever feel it like when you're around negative energy or you're exposed to something? Like think about a news story that you watch that just is like gut wrenching.
Yes.
You feel that somewhere in your body. Pay attention to that. Your body speaks volumes.
Yeah. So your body is a really big indicator of that.
Yeah. Use it as like your gauge, if your body is fit, or if your mind starts racing or your heart starts racing, it's like, okay, something may not be good here. Something may not be right here. And not everything's going to be rainbows and unicorns. I'm not saying that either. Like there is bad news in the world, but the point is not to get so sucked in that that's your focus and that's where your energy goes. Would
that be a good point to take that mental pause?
That would be a great time to take the mental pause.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's a great boundary. So when you're feeling that way, check in with yourself and give yourself that permission to pause.
Yeah.
Set that boundary.
I love permission to pause.
Yeah. So the final step is really to create that plan of action, which is the best part. Because I tell my clients, and this is how I explain it, which I think is so great because everybody can visualize this. Martha, I'm sure you remember the old Atlas maps, right?
I do.
The paper, the giant ones we all had in the back seat of the minivan or whatever.
I still have them.
Yeah.
Because someday technology may fail and I'm
right.
So
well, you know how I feel about paper.
I do know how to use it.
Yes. I love my paper. But so if you're looking at a roadmap and it's like, okay, from here to Canada, there's 4 million ways I can take to get there. It's not necessarily just A to B and I get there. Yeah. No, you may have to take lots of twists and turns. You may have to reroute and recalculate. It's just about having a plan of action to start. And it's giving you, it's allowing you to be fluid. As long as you're taking those little steps forward and you're breaking those priorities down into actionable steps, you're going to be able to keep, moving forward. And again, you can always reroute. You can always get back on track. The point is you see a target, you're going there. And as long as you're taking those steps forward, that's where the magic happens.
Absolutely. And when you find something that doesn't work, it doesn't mean you're at the end. It just means you hit one way that didn't work. And it's an opportunity to try a new way.
Yeah. Opportunity.
I love that.
Opportunities. Yes,
All
because if you just throw it all up and say, well, that didn't work. Well, that's what's going to keep happening.
Yeah.
So you have to keep putting that one foot in front of the other. And by decluttering your mind, you're able to clear out that space in order to access those golden nuggets, to be able to move forward on the priorities you've set so you could take the action steps that you've put into motion.
I love that. I love those 7 steps. Those are amazing.
Yeah. So the next time you find yourself, awake at 3 a.m. or midnight or whatever time that mental jolt happens for you, just keep in mind, like empty your mind on paper. That's the first thing. Like if these are bare minimum things, take a few deep breaths and give yourself permission to release. If you could just do those 3 things in that moment, you're already on a forward trajectory of better clearing out that space.
Yeah. Wow, Jen, this has been amazing. I love the declutter your mind. This is really hadn't put it quite in those terms in my own mind. So I love this, your spin on this, your take on this. It's amazing.
Could I add a bonus tip?
Oh, please. I love bonuses. Who doesn't love a good bonus?
I know. I'm like, I can't believe that I left this till the end, but I wanted to address multitasking.
Oh.
Yes. Do you know why? Because it doesn't work. And I recently read a study. I know. I recently read a study that only 2% of the entire population, the world population, can multitask. And I'm betting we're not one of them. I'm just guessing.
Oh my gosh. I have
2%.
never heard that. I'm almost.
So when I share that, people are like, oh no, I can multitask. And it's like, but are you really doing either task effectively? I mean,
right. Can you really be intentional in what you're doing if you're doing 2 things? How can you be present?
Yes.
Doing 2 things.
And I'm not talking 2 mindless things. Like, of course you can do the laundry and maybe talk on the phone. Like, I'm not talking about those kinds of things, but I'm talking about like really being present and engaged with somebody that's in front of you while doing something else. You're not fully giving your full attention. So I always like to touch base on that because multitasking is it's just not a thing.
You know what? That is a great bonus. I actually did not know that. Mm-hmm. I'm a little tweaked by that right now. I'm going to have to deal with that a little bit.
Because you're like, I thought I could do that.
I'm a little triggered because I'm a huge multitasker.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because you may be right.
Well, and staying on task and staying within that one thing, your mind is going to declutter because your full focus is on the one thing, not the multiple things. So you're really being able to hone into that one thing, set your alarm and be like, okay, for an hour, I do nothing but this one thing. So just really, again, circling back to checking in with yourself.
So what I really love about that whole thing, right, is that if your mind is spinning at the 3 a.m. mark, right, your mind is spinning and you have actually taken the time to do that brain dump and the journaling and really looking at stuff and picking the 3 things, your mind doesn't have anything to spin on. You've taken the hamster off the wheel and put it in bed.
I love that.
It can rest.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And the bonus, okay, I just have to tell you, I'm still a little triggered about not being able to multitask. But, since I love Jen and she's a dear friend, I am going to work on that. And I am going to go with she's correct. Because if she's done the workshop.
We don't want it to be correct, but yeah.
I just don't necessarily personally like it. So, Jen, you are so amazing. And I'm so glad you were my first guest on Through the Looking Glass with Martha. Everybody, this is Jen DuBois. She's an empowerment coach. She's one of my sisters of my heart. I love her to death. And she is so amazing. You can reach her at fearlesscoachjen at gmail.com and her website is www.jendubois.com. gmail.com. And reach out to her. She would love to get emails if you have questions or if you want to know something. She would love to hear your questions and just hear what you thought about this. I am Martha Davis Alexander. You can reach me at marthadalexander@gmail.com, or my website is throughtheLookingGlassWithMartha.com, although it's changing.
Stay tuned, right?
Stay tuned. The website is changing, as is the name of this show. So stay tuned. It's coming. It's coming soon. So reach out to me. Reach out to Jen. We would both love to hear from you. It has been an amazing show with you, Jen. It's so much value and in decluttering mind. I think I told you my husband's been up 2 nights in a row. So I'm gonna have him do a brain dump and do all of those things.
Well, thank you so much for having me tonight, Martha. This has been so much fun, as it always is working with you. Anyway.
Always fun to work together. So if you had last words, last something to say to the audience, what do you want to leave them with?
Oh, what do I want to leave them with? I really think it goes back to this is really just a fluid practice, and not to get so caught up in specific steps, but just to really know that this is just really a fluid process. And just as long as you're practicing and as long as you keep giving different things a try, you're moving forward. And that's all that matters. And to celebrate yourself along the way.
Absolutely. Celebrate yourself.
Celebrate all of the little steps, even like the very, very tiny ones, those add up. So celebrate every single win. So
for me, just so you know, I celebrate myself if I just even think about putting on workout clothes.
Awesome.
That's a celebration.
As it should be.
In my life. So you guys, this has been amazing. Tune in next week. I know it's Thanksgiving, but tune in next week. It is 9:00 Eastern Time, 6:00 Pacific Standard Time. Every night, same channel, same bat station. All of it's the same. We'll be here. Well, Jen will be back at some point, I promise. I promise Jen will be back at some point because it's been too much fun. You guys have a fabulous evening. Have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you guys later. Bye.